Right, so I've taken all of the flowers and foliage out of the asymmetrical, and they're all just here in their little groups. And my oasis was like that for the asymmetrical, so standing upright, but now I've turned it flat so it is square, filling that square base at the bottom. And I have the least amount of holes on the top. So all the holes I made on Tuesday are now in the bottom of the tray. And I am going to put some tape on. So Millie, I know you've got some, but Claudia, you don't, but so don't worry about it. So we put it on by wrapping round once to hold it on, twice to secure it, and 3 for good luck. Cross it over at the base, and then do it on the other side. So we're keeping the middle free. And 3 times again for good luck. And then trim that and get rid of the tape. So what we are going to do first is we're going to build our shape with our foliage. So we need our tallest bits of the ruscus. So the ruscus is the big glossy green one. And that's actually a really good length one for the middle. In fact, even a little bit shorter. So what are we looking at? So this is going to be about the length of my hand for the greenery, and then a little bit of stem. So that's good. All that stem's going to go in the foam, and then all of that green will be sitting out on top. Oh, sorry, excuse my big hand. So that one is going straight into the middle and push straight down. So now nothing will come higher than this one in the middle. And then we need to build a shape around the bottom. So we want this to be quite narrow. We don't want to come out a long, long way. So this big long stem that we used previously, I'm going to cut down. So this is now this length. So from my finger, it's not even the full length of my hand. And that's going to come down at the base there. And angled downwards, so the foliage is covering the base, if you can see. So because we don't want to run out of greenery, we're going to cut these down, and I'm going to leave a nice big gap before I put the next one in. Yeah, so there's a big gap there, and then turn it round, and I'm going to use another piece. Let's cut this so that all of these are exactly the same length, and it's just going around the base there, leaving big gaps. So they're all the same length. If you go like from my finger to the top of my hand there, it's really just the length of my hand. So if you've got bigger hands than me, you need to go smaller. So what have we got? I've just filled that in there roughly with 4 pieces. So that's making the bulk of my design. So we've got one in the middle, which is 1, 2, about 2.5 inches, so about 8 centimetres high. And then these ones down the bottom are about 6 centimetres, so they're a bit shorter. So I've only put 4 in. So you notice they're not bunched, really nice and loose and open. So now in between these gaps, I'm going to start filling it with some pistache. So just one piece of pistache that's already pre-cut. I've not recut it again. And that's going in between. So we're trying to get as good as coverage as possible without using the least amount of materials as possible. So when Claudia, you might remember when you did this last time, you ran out of foliage. So we're trying to stop that happening. So now it's just 4 pieces of pistache going around the outside, filling in the gaps. And I have got a big gap there, so I'm going to use another piece. So if you can see that from a different angle, that doesn't work. But we've got a nice big circle there going around. So it's not too compressed. There's just 8 pieces of foliage and one in the middle. So now we need to bring in a little bit of height. So we can use some other pistache, cut down a bit shorter and bring this in So this now needs to be lower than this one, because remember, nothing is higher than this, and we're trying to create a nice profile going down. So we're going to have 3 pieces of pistache to go around the central piece of ruscus. So this is going to help build our profile. Yeah, so can you see now it's starting to look a bit full, but we've got a big ring of oasis that we can see. So we're going to fill that in with some really small pieces of ruscus. So this is really small, if you can see there. The stem is tiny, and that it's just a few leaves. So these will just pop in anywhere. So now we've got our shape now. We've got our height, we've got our width, we've started to build in some bulk in the middle. We've now got a solid shape, but we do have lots of gaps. But now see, I've got so much foliage left, I can literally just use all of this to really just pop in wherever there's a gap. And tiny pieces like this now I can use. So you don't have to think too much at this stage now, but you've done all your thinking. So now this stage is all about just covering up that oasis. You're just looking for gaps and filling in those gaps wherever you can. And we want to go for about 90% coverage. So there's not too much thought, just filling in the gaps. And you know, you need to turn your design so you look at it from a different angle. And we've got absolutely loads of foliage here. So this is about right. So you can see we've still got some gaps, but these are all going to be covered. And so you can imagine the height, that's my scissors. So they're just a little bit taller than the scissors. Okay, so we're going to bring in our flowers now. So the last time we did this, we had carnations and we had 7 of them. We had 1 in the middle, we had 3 forming a triangle here, and then we had 3 forming a triangle at the base. This time we don't have that many materials, we've only got 5 roses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring 2 into the centre, and then we're going to form our triangle around the outside here with the roses. So we're going to use our 2 most tightest bud, tallest, straightest roses, which for me is these 2. So this one that's tall, it needs to be a bit shorter, and this is going to go about the same height as this ruscus. So we only put our stems into the foam about 2 centimetres, so that's sitting on top of the oasis there, and you can see it's too tall. So I'm going to take some more off. So this is going to go in as tight as possible to that stem of ruscus. And you can see that that one is actually, I'm just going to take out that piece, that leaf. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in the next one, lower but still really tight. So I'm just going to rest it there. It needs to be lower than that, so I can take off a bit more. And I'm going to bring this the other side of the ruscus, so it's there. So the reason for this is just because we've got 5 stems. Normally you'd only have 1 rose in the middle, but I want us to use all of them. So our next one is to bring in our 3 fattest roses on the outside. So I'm going to cut this one down just above this node, so it is that length, and that will go just below the edge of the oasis and push that in. And that's gone in quite far actually, so you want that to be level with the greenery. So our next one needs to be an even gap, so we think it probably needs to be about here. So you can keep turning your foam round. This one probably doesn't need to be cut down much shorter, but I'm going to take a bit off, really just to freshen up the ends. So that is going in the same length as this one and on the same line. And this is forming the triangle, if you remember when we was looking down on it last time. So then we know that we've got this much of a space. We want to have that much of a space again this side. So that means our next rose is going to go here. Okay, so what we have is this gap is the same as this gap, is the same as this gap. So we've got a nice even balance. And that forms a triangle. If you remember that from 2 weeks back, we've got a nice triangle here if we're looking down on it. So our next thing to bring in now is the eustoma. So use your buds first. They don't have much colour, but that's fine. And these need to be chopped down. And we're going to bring our buds in quite high. So next to our central rose, want some nice tall pieces. And they can go either side. So these buds will sit higher, and that's what's going to add interest to our design. That one's sitting quite high, to be fair. I'm just going to snip that one out and keep that little one there. So I'm going to use more of these buds around the base. So these will go in between our roses down low. So if you remember, last time it was where we put the carnations. And then I've got lots of other buds, which I'm going to come back and use these in a bit. So then now I want 3 really nice big of the purple flowers, and these are going to go in between the roses. So these will also form a triangle. What's important with the posy is that you're forming a nice profile, so you want the shape to be travelling downwards. So buds like this, which have got a little bit of colour on, you can't see, but here I've got a big gap here, and it's because this rose that we put in at the front, this one, there's nothing matching at this side, so I'm going to bring in a little bit of purple really close to that rose, just so it's filling in that gap. I'm now going to start bringing in some solly. So it's all cut down ready for me, so I'm just going to recut it just to freshen it up. And we want some bits nice and tall. So the important thing with the solly is that the flow is flowing down. You see these have got a bit of movement going that way. So if you was to put this in your design this way, it means the movement's going the wrong way. So we want them to flow down. So with this one, it faces that way and it will sit in our design, and we're going to tuck it in, press it down firmly, and then we can readjust things where we want them. Just so they separate out nicely. So we've got some up high. We also need to bring some in low. So we're going to start staggering it all down. So we've got all the pieces going throughout. So some of these will be too tall and you'll need to cut them shorter. Some will be just exactly the right length. So you see these two stems, they're both branches and they're both individual, but I can put them together like so, cut them down to the right length, and put them in at the same time. This just saves me a bit of time and gives it a fuller look. And I'll give it a turn round so you can see. So I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to put two pieces together and bring them in low. See, they're only short. I'll show you that length. Not very long at all, but there's two of them together, which is just making it a bit thicker. And we continue putting them all in until we've got enough. Now I think I'm going to have to use all of my two stems, so I think you probably will have to as well. And I need a bit more down here. So this one, it's all too tall, these. On this stem, you see, they're massive, these branches, so I'm going to take those branches off. And then, like we've done before, just bunch them together in a nice pattern and give the stems another trim. And they're going to sit in nicely there. And then I also, now I can see this side, I need a bit more around here, so I'm going to carry on filling in where necessary. So now we're almost done. Our design, it's got all the elements in there that we're going to use, but we've still got a few flowers left, haven't we? So we've got a few of these buds and some of these tiny buds. So I'm going to use all of these and I'm just going to pop them in wherever. So there's no thought, there's no like, oh, you know, you shouldn't go there. They can go anywhere. The important thing, the only thing you need to be aware of is that you've got even distribution. So this is our finished posy. You see we have nice even distribution with the buds. The important thing is not to bunch them all together. We want them really distributed in between. We've got a nice profile going down. There's nothing jutting out or nothing really tall. It's all quite neat and contained in. And it's very symmetrical.